The history of Ouje-Bougoumou goes way back, time immemorial, and it's about a people who have a tradition, a culture, a way of life. The Ouje-Bougoumou people were mainly hunters, fishers, and trappers, and occupied a large piece of the territory called Ouje. And when the Hudson Bay trading came around, they were involved in that and supplied fur to Hudson Bay and other fur collectors. It was up until 1950 or so, things started to change. And with the mining discoveries, a lot of prospectors came up in the region. There was a road that was constructed by forestry companies to access the wood up here and to allow access for mining activity. And at that time, our elders, of course, welcomed these new visitors and escorted them out throughout the territory, showing them many prospects, outcroppings, and never, they didn't know and realize what these prospecting and mineral discoveries would do. Little did they know that the mining industry would change their way of life. And initially, things worked out well. They worked for the companies, escorting them or working at the mine site. But as development came into place, they were then forced to move from their settlements. In our history, we've been relocated 7 times, to make room for mining development. And and shortly after the mining, of course, forestry was the next biggest industry in the region. And again, people were forced to move into small campments of shacks and poor living conditions where there were no water, no sewer. Children were going to school from these very poor conditions. The Cree signed the agreement in 1975, and our former chief then, Chief Mianskim, tried to negotiate a piece of land where we could settle. Because of all the different interests of minerals in the region, the governments decided that they would wait until after the signing to sit down with us. Unfortunately, none of this was written, and it wasn't put in any agreement. And so the agreement was signed in 1975 without the Ouje-Bougoumou people as being part of this. It was in 1980 or so that we picked up the fight again, and in 1985 we elected our first chief and council, and there we began to do some research, and to justify that we were a distinct group from Mistissini. And through the research, we documented, using the stories of our elders about what happened and why we were, where we were at that time. And from there on, we started our negotiations, and we had, of course, do a lot of political pressure, campaign a lot, tell our story. And it wasn't until 1989 that we finally reached the first agreement, and it was with the government of Quebec, which gave us some resources to construct the village, but it didn't settle the land issue. And it was only 3 years later that we reached an agreement with the government of Canada that added more resources so that we can build houses and other facilities in the community. Of course, these agreements were all negotiated on an incremental basis, and it was again took another 10 years that we signed the last agreement, where a complementary agreement to the James Bay Agreement that formally gave us recognition as a distinct band. And so from 1989 we started building our community and built all the institutions, the school, the clinic, the youth center, the band office, other facilities that were in the first agreement. And in 2001, we were parties to the agreement that was signed with Quebec on the Pays des Braves. And again, there were some more resources that were provided, and with those resources, we were able to construct other facilities like the sport complex and and other institutions that were necessary for the village. So the history of Ouje-Bougoumou is quite a sad story in a sense, but one that's also very interesting. And the village has since then won a number of awards, UN awards, for environment, for community development, for innovation, and so forth. And our last piece of jewel is this Cultural Institute, which is a regional institute that represents cultural programs and history, Cree history of all the Cree Nation. So come and visit us. There's a lot to see here.